Hello everyone, my name is the Sinister Minister, and today I wanted to talk about the Great Controversy. If you've ever smashed your pinky toe on a corner, hit all the red lights on your way home from work, or had to sit next to someone who smelled really bad, you may have asked yourself, why would a loving God allow this? If you have, you may want to stick around because the Great Controversy might just be the answer you've been looking for. If you find this video helpful, or at the very least have a good time, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. The story begins long before humanity walked the earth. The Bible paints a picture of a perfect, harmonious universe under God's rule. But then, something unexpected happened. Rebellion. In the book of Isaiah, we're introduced to a powerful angel named Lucifer who became prideful and sought to exalt himself above God. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 to 14 say, "How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." Now, if you're wondering where Lucifer appears in this verse, it's because Lucifer comes to us from the Latin translation of the Bible, called the Latin Vulgate. In Latin, Lucifer is the word used to translate morning star. Now, if you're wondering why Lucifer is called morning star, Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 17 gives us a little bit more context. "Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings." You see, Lucifer was perfect. His beauty was radiant, but this went to his head. Eventually, he began to believe that he deserved more than what God had given him, and it caused him to trigger a war in heaven. You see, his act of defiance wasn't just about power. He challenged God's character. Lucifer, now called Satan, accused God of being unjust, questioning his laws and love. Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 through 9, paint the picture of the war in heaven. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. But the controversy didn't end there. Instead, it shifted to a new battleground, a battleground we call Earth. In Genesis 3, we see how the controversy entered our world. Satan, in the form of a serpent, deceived Adam and Eve into falling victim to the same sin that he fell for, pride. Genesis chapter 3, verses 4 and 5 say, "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman. "For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." You see, Satan wasn't lying. We really did become like God in that we gained knowledge of evil. But ignorance is bliss, and with the knowledge of evil came the temptation to act upon it. The mere knowledge of sin had catastrophic consequences for humanity. It marred our very DNA, separating us from God and inclining us to sin. This act of rebellion brought sin, suffering, and death into the world. Romans chapter 5, verse 12 tells us, "Therefore, just as sin entered through the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people, because all sinned." But even in humanity's darkest hour, God offered hope. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, just a few verses down, God promises, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." This was a prophecy pointing to the eventual defeat of evil on the cross with Jesus' sacrifice. But from that moment on, the great controversy unfolded throughout the ages, with humanity caught in the crossfire. Now, you may be wondering, that explains why sin is in the world, but it doesn't explain why God continues to allow it. And if you said that, congratulations, you're smarter than a third grader. But in all seriousness, the answer to that question is found in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 6 through 12, which say, "One day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, 'Where have you come from?' Satan answered the Lord, 'From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it.'" Now I want to pause here and address two important pieces of information that we just received. Number one is the presence of the sons of God. We don't really know who they are. Some translations translate it as angels, but the Hebrew is intentional about writing it as sons of God. It could be that they really are just angels, or maybe they're beings from other planets. We don't really know. But the important thing to remember about this is that there's an audience. There are people who are watching. The second thing that we have to talk about is Satan's response to God. When he says, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it," he was mocking God by claiming dominion over the earth. Imagine if your neighbor stole your car and then proceeded to drive it around in front of you all day while talking about how great it feels to have a car. Well, that's what Satan was doing to God. So then God responds to him. He says, "Have you considered my servant Job? There's no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." Now, a lot of people like to blame God for Job's situations, but given what Satan just said, this was a logical response. You see, Satan was trying to show off how he had tempted most of the world away from God. But God was putting Satan in his place. He was reminding him that not everyone had bowed to him yet. Of course, this angered Satan, who says, "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan replied. "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything that he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now, stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." Here, Satan exposes his philosophy for what it is. For Satan, the only reason to love God would be because of what he gives us. To Satan, it would be crazy for Job to love God for any other reason than those blessings. You see, Satan had spent so much time fighting for the things that he thought he deserved that he forgot what it was to love anyone for who they are. Seeing as he couldn't tempt Job away from God, Satan's next move then was to beat him until he renounced God. So the Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. What's interesting to me about this is that while God allows Satan to do this, it was Satan's idea to use Job as an example for this. The question then comes to mind, surely Satan knew that God wouldn't just join him. So then, who was he setting this example for? What was the point of this test? Who was this meant to convince? Now, if you're thinking to yourself, the sons of God, the other beings that are watching, then congratulations, your IQ is at least room temperature. That's exactly right. Satan's main concern is not Earth or even humans. Satan's main concern is the rest of the universe. Satan has made it his mission to make God look bad through the violence and the chaos that he causes, with the hopes of proving that God is unjust, unloving, and a tyrant. The problem is, God isn't these things. So instead, Satan places God in a position where he has to either acknowledge that Satan might be right about Job, or allow Satan to have his way with Job. God, in his infinite wisdom, chooses to allow Job to suffer for a time, so that Satan's true character might be revealed to all the other heavenly beings of the universe. The story ends with Job being pushed to the brink by Satan, but ultimately Job remains faithful and is rewarded with everything he had before and more. So then what does this mean for us today? Why does God allow suffering? The story of Job teaches us that God allows certain evils to persist temporarily for the sake of allowing the rest of the universe to see for themselves the results of sin. God's character in the Bible, as revealed through his patience with the people of Israel, as well through Jesus in the New Testament, is one of love, patience, forgiveness, and hope, while Satan's way of life is one of selfishness, greed, lies, and pain. Satan's world is one where might makes right, where only the strong can survive, where the most powerful ones can use and abuse those below them without consequences. And if you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, that sounds exactly like the world I live in, well, you're right. That is the way our world works. And all you have to do is turn on the news to see how well Satan's plan for us is going. But if instead you want to live in a world where the strong protect the weak, where everyone bends over backwards for their neighbors, where love is the measure of one's character, then boy, do I have good news for you. John 3:16 reminds us, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life." This verse shows that eternal life is one choice away. The start of your journey to become a better person is only one choice away. You don't have to live according to the principles of Satan. You don't have to settle for the mediocre highs that this world has to offer. There's no high like the Most High. Thank you again for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe. Question time. What are your thoughts on Job's situations? Do you think God made the right choice? What would you have done differently? Drop your answers in the comment section below. Oh, yeah, and before I forget, as for the devil, you know, that guy that ruined everything? Well, he has a special kind of punishment awaiting for him. Revelation chapter 20 verse 10 says, "And the devil, who deceived them, was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. And there they will be tormented day and night forever and ever." Well, sleep tight.